From Henderson, co-publisher of Minico Publishing, and we're delighted to have you in the audience today. This is one of several informative webinars planned for self-storage owners, operators, managers, investors, developers, and other industry professionals. The sponsor of today's webinar is Extra Space Storage, a real estate investment trust based in Salt Lake City, Utah, the second largest operator of self-storage in the U.S. Extra Space is a national owner, developer, acquirer, and operator of professionally managed self-storage properties. Founded in 1977, Extra Space Storage is a 30-year-old company that has been involved in the self-storage industry since its inception. Today's speakers are Noah Springer and Jim Stevens. Noah Springer, Director of Strategic Partnerships, is in charge of managing all of the strategic partnerships for Extra Space Storage. In 2007, Noah helped create the Extra Space Joint Venture Program, in which Extra Space joins forces with local developers to develop self-storage across the United States. In addition to the 3+ program, Noah handles acquisition efforts with all third-party managed owners. Jim Stevens is the Senior Vice President of Acquisitions and Business Development, a position he has held since 2000. Jim joined Extra Space in 2001 as Divisional Vice President for the West Coast after a 13-year career with Public Storage. Since November of 2006, Jim has overseen more than $465 million in acquisitions. This January will mark the 30th anniversary of the Mini Storage Messenger, providing the self-storage industry with in-depth news and information. Each issue of the Messenger offers cover stories and feature articles on the most timely industry topics and trends. Monthly columns contributed by industry experts and accomplished business professionals address a wide range of topics including security, facility operations, technology, legal issues, legislative updates, construction, and development. We also publish a variety of other self-storage data sources like the ones you listed. For more information, please visit ministoragemessenger.com. We invite you to submit questions throughout the webinar. Simply type your question in the question area and click send. Depending on the question, we will answer it privately or to the whole group. We will try to answer as many questions as we can during the question and answer period at the end of the webinar. Those that we cannot answer due to time will be answered via email after the webinar. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on demand from our archives at ministoragemessengers.com. Today's presentation should run about 45 minutes, with the remainder of the hour open to questions and answers. And now I would like to turn the presentation over to Noah and Jim.
Lori, thank you very much. This is Jim. I'm hearing everything twice, unfortunately.
Pulling it up right now. Association members, facility. Yeah. Facility. How come we just lost? Hang on. I'm not hearing anything.
I'm here. I just wanted to wait because I was hearing feedback. Lori, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can I go ahead and start?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name, again, is Jim Stevens. I'm the Senior Vice President of Acquisitions and Business Development for Extra Space Storage. We're delighted that you took some time to join us today and look forward to answering any questions you might have. Incidentally, I wanted just to start by saying I happen to be traveling today in Atlanta, Georgia, and am sitting at probably one of the nicest facilities I've ever seen in my 25-year career in self-storage. If anybody ever gets a chance to stop by the Dunwoody self-storage property here in Dunwoody, Georgia, it's absolutely beautiful, and the owner was kind enough to let me do our webinar from this location. Wanted to start off a little bit by telling everybody a little bit about Extra Space and our history. As Lori mentioned, we're a 30-year-old company that was founded in '77. A couple other highlights of our chronological order of evolving into the second largest self-storage facility would be a couple points. In 1998 is really when Extra Space joined up with Prudential Real Estate, who committed $150 million to go out and buy and build properties. Was really when Extra Space began to grow as a company rather than just building and selling properties as they had in the past. In 2004, we completed our IPO, and in 2005, one of the milestones of our history was the opportunity to buy Storage USA for about $2.3 billion from GE, which made us the second largest operator in self-storage. Since that time, being a public company and a larger company, we're proud to say that our revenue increases and our FFO increases have been pretty impressive, and we're very proud of the fact that we've led the sector in FFO increases for some time now. In 2007, our dividend was increased to $1 a share from 91 cents per share. You can see on your screen how Extra Space, the portfolio with 673 properties, is divided up. There are basically three different buckets. 263 of those properties are wholly owned and are considered REIT properties. The largest group of properties are actually joint ventures that we have with other institutional partners, including Prudential, Heitman, TIAA-CREF, and a few others. We also manage and franchise properties. We actually inherited the franchise program when we acquired Storage USA. There are 63 properties that are either Storage USA franchised programs or properties that we third-party manage. What we'll be talking about today, for the most part, are the third-party managed properties. With that, we have just launched in the last couple of months a brand new program that we call 3+. We came up with the name 3+ because we felt that there are a few different areas of management that Extra Space, because of our size and scope, have the ability to do a little bit differently than many other management companies out there today. One of those areas is revenue management. We have a team of 5 people in our company that what they are responsible for all day long is reviewing revenue management opportunities, meaning pricing, discounting, existing customer increases, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. The second area of 3+ is technology. We have a platform of advanced technology that really both the revenue management and the marketing, which is the third part of 3+, all are based on. So the technology is the base that allows us to do some marketing concepts and some revenue management, allows us to have some revenue management tools that are fairly unique to the industry today. The plus in 3+ really just stands for everything else that Extra Space does, including acquisitions, joint venture development, our hiring process, motivating our employees, training our employees, the operations of the businesses, accounting, et cetera, really any operator in the business does all of these things, and there are several that do these things very well. Again, the difference that we chose, there are the three areas that we chose to highlight today really are the first three that I mentioned: marketing, technology, and revenue management. Again, hence the name 3+. Revenue management is an area that has allowed us to really excel. As I mentioned at the top of the presentation, we've had pretty good growth on the revenue side of our business, and a lot of that is not just necessarily through occupancy increases, but really through a lot of the areas that our revenue management team takes care of. A couple different areas that we'll talk about are street rate pricing, discounting, and existing customer increases. The acronym there, ECRI, stands for Existing Customer Rate Increases, and really the monitoring of how customers behave after we raise rates. Three ways that street rates are managed today. Again, this is all based on our technology, but we have a model that allows us to gather data and change pricing based on property and unit type performance. The triggers, which is a very high level of automation, is essentially, an analogy would be airline pricing. It's based on occupancy levels and rental activity from size to size to size, and based on how you set those triggers allows us to effectively price available units. So as a certain unit size increases in occupancy, we can have the trigger set so that automatically when it reaches a certain occupancy level, that rate will increase 5% or 10% or 15%, whatever the percentage rate increase that we would like to do. As well, on the downward slide, if a unit type is vacating and becoming more available, we can have the triggers set so that prices automatically change coming back down so that you can increase the rental activity. Again, this is very similar to airline pricing. It's not uncommon that when you're sitting on an airplane, the person next to you, depending on when they booked their flight and you booked your flight, you could have two completely different prices. The same is true today with this technology to price our storage units exactly the same. The third part that we really feel is very important is the manual feedback. We have an ability, again, with our technology, for the district managers and the field people, the divisional vice presidents, to weigh in on any pricing changes that have been made or that need to be made. What this allows us to do is the automated part, the trigger part, can set the rates for you. 90% of the time those probably are good rates, but there are things going on in the market from time to time that somebody sitting in Salt Lake City at a computer may not be aware of. There could be a street under construction, a new competitor about to open that we don't have on our competitor database yet, something of that nature that the people running the properties on a day-to-day basis may have better knowledge of. In the manual feedback allows them to come onto the system, and even though the trigger may have set a price, for example, at $100, there may be a very good reason for the district manager to come in and recommend that that price be something different than 100, whether it's 95 or 110, and then these rates can be changed from there. Our feeling is, philosophically, we just feel that the people with the best knowledge certainly are on the ground, running the properties and managing the territories and talking to the customers. And so we want to make certain that there's a tool for them to override the system that we think works most of the time. What you see in front of you now is staying, what we call staying ahead of curve and monitoring the competition. This is something that Extra Space takes pretty seriously. We have a company that we use called Ritter Associates, who do a very nice job of shopping our competition. What we look to do is shop somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 different unit types every single month. Each property has designated its 4 primary competitors in any market, and we consider 2 of those 4 competitors to be primary, the remaining 2 of those 4 properties to be secondary competitors, and they're weighted differently. The first 2 would have a weighting of 70%, the other 2 would have a weighting of 30%, and then we can go out and look not only at the existing rates as they are today, but we keep this data, we store this data, and it allows our revenue management team to go back and look at trends and see where rates have come from, see what direction they're heading in, see which competitors raise rates often, see which competitors raise rates once a year, twice a year, depending on the frequency and the premium or discount that they may have to us, is all helpful data that allows us, we think, to set our rates as competitively as necessary. One of the things that Extra Space has adopted, as some of our competitors do, is a first month free. And I know there's a lot of strong feelings one way or the other in the industry as far as the first month free. Some folks feel like it's really giving away unnecessary rent. Our philosophy is, especially on a lease-up asset, that you're really better off to lease up a newer property as quickly as you can. We've found that the best way to do that, we've tested this in several different areas, is the first month free rental. We've tested this against second month free, we've tested it against month half off, and what we've found is that the most powerful tool out there today is to offer a customer a first month free. What we have found is customers are staying much longer, and I don't think this is any secret to anybody in the business, but that customers are staying so much longer than they expected to stay, that really by giving away that month up front really probably pays for itself. It's a powerful tool in that if a customer comes in thinking they're going to stay for 2 or 3 months and they're getting a first month free, therefore they think they're only going to be paying for 2 months. As we all know, 12 months, 13, 14 months later, when they're still paying the rent, that first month free, as I suggested, certainly has more than paid for itself. Existing customer rate increases. This is an area that we've spent a lot of time on and probably are one of the more aggressive companies in the industry today on the frequency and the amount of our rate increases. What we've had the ability to do with our revenue management team is to do several tests. And since we have about 400,000 customers, Samrat Sande, the head of our revenue management team, has done a very nice job of running several different tests. Every month I think they're running a new test, it seems like, where we can take 5,000 customers and treat them one way, take another 5,000 customers, treat them a little differently, take another 5,000 customers, treat them yet a third way, and then run those tests for 2 or 3 months and then come back and see what how those customers have acted. What we have found by running those tests is when somebody moves into one of the facilities, after the first 2 or 3 months, if you give them their first increase, their move-out activity is far greater. If you do it at 5 months or 6 months or 7 months, statistically there's essentially no difference between the 5-month anniversary or the 5-month first rate increase and the 7-month or the 12-month first rate increase. And so our philosophy, if there's no difference in the move-out activity, why wouldn't we do that a little bit sooner? The subsequent rate increases after that are every 9 months. When we acquired Storage USA, Extra Space, the legacy Extra Space stores were already doing every 9 months. So we had a nice control group by going back and looking at the difference in the activity between the legacy Storage USA properties and the legacy Extra Space properties. And even though we were doing 9-month increases, in Storage USA properties were doing 12-month increases, we found that there was no statistical difference in the vacate activity. And so again, we felt that we were better off as a company to go ahead and do that every 9 months. We found that our increases, depending on the type of customer, is between 5 and 10%. That would be probably over the last 18 months or so. In today's economy, I think most people would agree that that's potentially a little bit on the strong side. We have, because of that, have gone back now and started to tweak our increases. And again, we have the ability to go in and test different groups of people in different locations and see what the vacate activity experience is. And so we're just starting some new tests to determine whether or not in today's economy and financial climate out there, whether or not, if say an 8% rate increase is too steep. On the other hand, if we find that the vacate activity is no different between a 5 and an 8 or a 10% increase, we would probably keep the higher increase. The increases are based, of course, on demand, occupancy type, the competitive rate, the type of customer, and unit type that's rented. Here's just some additional data showing essentially what I was talking about. The customers are not moving out because of the percent of increase or the dollar increase that we're giving them. And what you'll see on this chart is the people at the first chart on the left, the percent increase for 5-month customers, and this is the type of data that I was referring to that suggests we have the ability to do this. You can see the first 5 customers or 5 groups of customers are essentially the same on the percent of increase, and it starts to inch up a little bit there after you hit the 15%. So again, we found that sweet spot is somewhere probably between 8 and 10%, and then you'll see a similar results in the chart on the right, which is dollar increases as opposed to percentage increases. Commercial tenants, again, I don't think this is giving away any secret sauce. I don't think this would surprise anybody, but certainly we have gone back and looked at the sensitivity to a commercial customer as it pertains to rate increases compared to residential customers. And again, I don't think this really surprises anybody, but we've found that the commercial tenants show much less price sensitivity as a residential customer. And again, it's our revenue management team that is constantly testing different discounts, different rate increases, different street rates, all across the board. And with all of this data, we feel that it certainly gives us a little bit of an advantage. On the marketing side, the second part of the 3+ program, we found again that through our size and scope in the industry, we sort of have some advantages over some other people in the industry. And so I'm quickly going to run through the top 10 reasons on the marketing side that we think Extra Space has to offer to people when we manage their properties. One is just the marketing team overall has a very wide variety and deep knowledge coming from several different leading industries. The hotel industry, we have people from the Hilton Hotel, from Federal Express, from the Westin, from Toyota, and we like to think that these people bring a variety of different ideas and experience to the table, which certainly helps us try new marketing programs that probably haven't been tried in the industry before. Second thing is the world-class research. We spend a lot of time and effort really doing extensive market research. We go back and talk to our customers all the time. We did 50,000 surveys last year. We survey our customers when they move in. We survey our customers when they move out. And we actually also have an online storage panel where we get a lot of different information from our panelists. We really feel that with the research, this is going to help drive rentals. We can target customers more effectively. We can monitor their length of stay, the differences between properties, the differences between types of customers, et cetera, et cetera. We find this to be very helpful data in making our marketing decisions. Reason number 8 is based on that information. We do we make very extensive efforts to make all of our marketing programs ROI focused. You don't see us sponsoring things like NASCAR or the Super Bowl or things like that because we just don't feel that we're going to get a good bang for our buck. Instead, we'd like to put our money where we think we're going to get some substantial returns from our marketing efforts, and we're constantly reallocating dollars into the programs, obviously, that we find the highest returns. Number 7 reason is we've spent a lot of time and effort in the last few years coming up with a retail design. Again, obviously there are many properties out there today that have taken these necessary steps, but to have a professional retail design, including posters, banners, point-of-sale materials, etc., our research indicates that customers have a better feeling when they're dealing with a high-end trusted brand in a name that they know. So we've spent quite a bit of time and effort on coming up with a consistent message and again a retail look for our customers. Reason number 6, National Sales Center. This is something that we've just in the last couple of weeks switched from the third-party vendor. We've just now opened our own internal National Sales Center. One of the things that's neat about our National Sales Center is we were fortunate enough to pick up the 888 storage phone number, and so properties that have high visibility, we try to put that number up wherever we can. I think it's obvious that consumers spend more and more of their time on their cell phones today. They do more and more business activities on their cell phones. Certainly with a number like 888 storage that now will in the next couple of weeks roll into our National Sales Center, we think that's a little leg up on the marketing side. With the National Sales Center, we feel that it's easier to train 30 or 40 or 50, however many call center agents we'll end up with, than it is to train 650 store managers and then another 600 some assistant managers to be as effective in the sales process on answering the phone. So we've adopted that model, but we do feel really that the store manager still plays obviously a very important role, and we ask that store manager, once they receive the email from the National Call Center, follow up on that lead just as quickly as possible to give that person an opportunity to ask additional questions and find out more about the property or the local property manager. And obviously the expectation would be that manager would then follow up with an invitation down to the property. National brand, we're starting to see in the storage business where national brand is starting to make a difference. With 650 properties, we've got the ability to spread our name across the country in all the states that we're in, and we're finding, and this was sort of surprising to me, but because we survey our customers as often as we do, we're finding out that actually 25% of our customers have used Extra Space or a Storage USA property in the past. And so we're starting to recognize and feel that certainly a national brand can make a difference. I don't think our industry is to the point yet like a Coke or a Pepsi, but certainly a recognizable name, and I'll get to this in a minute, especially as there's more radio advertising, television advertising, and the internet becomes even more and more important. Reason number 4, some National Alliance programs. I'll just touch on one of these. We have a National Alliance. We're the only storage company that has a National Alliance with AAA. They have 51 million members, and so we've partnered up with them and in essence get free advertising with them. If you were to go on their website or get some marketing information from them, Extra Space Storage would be the only self-storage property that you would see as a preferred vendor that AAA recommends. The number 3 reason, and this one is actually very exciting to us, is the National Accounts Program. We have a group of people located in Memphis, which is where the Storage USA offices were. Part of the marketing department is still based there, and we have a group of folks down in Memphis that are full-time national account reps. And the way this works is they're targeting Fortune 1000 companies, especially with a focus on pharmaceutical companies. And we all know what great customers the pharmaceutical companies can be. They stay for a long period of time. They essentially all need a storage unit. What our National Account Program does is actually go out and look for companies that need multi-self-storage units across the country. We had an example just 2 weeks ago. Somebody came to us needing 600 self-storage units scattered across the country. The thing that's pretty impressive about this group of people is they don't just go out and see how many they can fit into the extra space platform. They actually go back to the customer, and let's say in this example, for example, we've filled 300 of the 600 units in the extra space properties. They don't stop there and go back to that company and say, well, we've filled half of your request, and good luck with the other half. What they do is they then go out, find the other 300 accounts, and better yet, then they go back to that company with one lease and one master lease that covers all 600 of those self-storage units, and then they also get one consolidated invoice per month, and then this marketing team takes care of making sure that all 600 facilities, whether they're extra space properties or non-extra space properties, are then paid on the usage that this company has used. We've found this to be very, very beneficial to large companies that really don't have the time or the manpower or the desire to go out and find 600 different individual units. The second thing that we do that we think is fairly unique in the industry is we've now, in the last year, excuse me, put our marketing folk, or a portion of our marketing department, out in the field. We have 7 different divisions at Extra Space Storage. Each division now has its own marketing manager, with the idea that they can kick off marketing programs and do things like grand openings and work with, say, an Army installation or a base or local apartment communities. These marketing managers are constantly in the field, visiting properties, helping the managers with their marketing programs, and finding local marketing programs excuse me, that work in that area. The number one reason I think everybody would agree, there are more and more and more customers coming to all of us by way of the web. In many meetings, I can't obviously see a raise of hands here, but if you just answer to yourself the question, when's the last time you used the Yellow Page book to find whether it's storage or anything, certainly there probably are very few people raising their hands. 25 years ago when I got into this business, pretty much Yellow Pages was almost the one and only form of advertising. And in the last couple of years, we've taken about $1 million a year out of our Yellow Page advertising costs and shifted those over to web marketing. We're finding more and more customers obviously come to us by way of the web. We've had, in the last 12 months, over 1 million unique visitors to our website. When we do free listings and you do a search for storage, Extra Space comes up number 2 out of over 400 million references. And when you type in self-storage, we come up number 5. Obviously, that helps drive rentals to our properties. We're finding that 20% of our customers who rent from us first heard about us on the web, and 40% have used the web to research storage, meaning they may have seen us first driving by, but then when they get home, they decide to look us up on the web before either calling or stopping in. So it's a tremendous, tremendous marketing tool that we feel is going to get nothing but stronger and stronger over time. We have some people in Salt Lake City that spend their entire day working with Google in companies like Google to work on the positioning of our properties on the web. And as you can see on the screen, this is an example of in Memphis. You have listings up in the top left part under Extra Space Self-Storage. Then you have in this example, 3 of the 10 locations that are listed here. Then you also have over on the right, you also have other listings over there. Clearly, there is a science to how you get positioned. I'm not the person to explain that. Again, I certainly understand that we have people that their full-time job is to work on finding out how you can improve your positioning on the web page. What I do understand quite clearly as a consumer is that, like most people, I think I don't go past usually the first thing that pops up or the first page. I typically, whether it's self-storage or another product that I'm looking for, usually make a selection out of that first page. Again, we're fortunate enough to have as many properties as we do, and because of that, because of the work that our marketing team has done, we've ended up in really some pretty solid positions. And again, that helps drive more and more traffic to our sites. So those are really the 2 first portions of 3+. At this time, what I'd like to do is switch this over to Noah Springer, who was introduced at the top of the program. Noah and I have worked together for the last couple of years and have just put together this program in the last couple of months, the 3+ program. And I'd like for Noah, who's the director of our strategic development, to talk about technology. Noah?
Thanks, Jim. I just want to thank Miniko and Rebecca and Poppy and Lori for putting this together again. And just as Jim was talking, I had an opportunity this morning to look at some of the statistics from our website, and just thought it might be interesting to some of the people out there. As we looked at some of the paid versus natural searches, our website was about 55% paid searches as opposed to about 45% natural searches that we have on there. A lot of people have that question, and when that comes up, that's about where we are right now. That being said, that many natural searches makes it very difficult for a smaller operator or an owner-operator that has 1 or 2 sites without the scale of Extra Space to compete on the internet and in the storage realm on the internet. The good thing about the 3+ third-party management program, as Jim was talking about, is that it gives Extra Space the opportunity to let others take advantage of all these synergies that we've come up with. And one of the main synergies are our technologies that we've started with and we continue to advance with. Some of the things that I like to talk about when we're talking about the technologies are the first thing I like to say is our platform that we base this on is CenterShift. And CenterShift is one of the leading softwares for self-storage. And as a side note, CenterShift actually was spawned out of Extra Space and was spun off as a separate company. Initially, CenterShift started as Extra Space's IT department, and it is used as our kind of base program at the sites, and our site managers use that in order to take customers in and rent units. But it's also the platform for which we do our revenue management, which is what Jim talked about, and many of our other proprietary systems. Some other things that are important to know about Extra Space and the technology and the technological infrastructure that we've set up is it gives all of the owners that we have as third parties the opportunity to create customized reports for themselves, whether that be the report manager that you see on your screen here or Fast Track. These are 2 customizable reports for owners to have the opportunity to sit down and say, let me give my equity investors certain reports, let me give my bank certain reports, and they can go in on a daily basis and look at those at the expenses, at the revenues, at rental activity that day, and find out what's going on at the facility. You don't have to wait until the month following or even the end of the month to see what happened at your facility. You can actually have that information in real time that day. Some of the other things that we do that we've set up in the last few years and that we'll continue to work on is auto reconciliation. We have a dashboard that we set up for our owners to see what they'd like to view as soon as they pull up CenterShift and some other reports. RevMax is what Jim spoke about earlier, is what a proprietary system that we use that is kind of a bolt-on to CenterShift that gives us the opportunity to raise and lower rents and track discounts and move those back and forth. Again, that's all available through Extra Space as the manager of other facilities for people. Quickly, because I know we're running out of time, I want to talk about the performance of some sites that were managed by others or owned by others and then brought on by Extra Space and eventually managed by us. As you can see here, this is a 26 property portfolio that we bought a few years ago, and you can see how the occupancy has changed from where it is to where it is now. But the most important thing is to look at the actual total revenue from the 6 months prior of Extra Space owning the facilities to the following 12 months after that, and where we increased that number over $2.3 million from on the revenue side of things. That doesn't take into consideration all of the synergies that are brought on by Extra Space and the expenses. We typically will have lower expenses than most of our competitors due to, again, our scale and our size. Just the other day, we were looking at one facility that we purchased in New Jersey. Just the advertising alone, because of the cost of the Yellow Page book, was around $45,000 for advertising. The 12 months after Extra Space brought it on, it was around $14,000. That's because we can do a lot more with the internet. Like I said, 45% of our searches are natural or free searches, and that's a great opportunity for people to take advantage of Extra Space and the scale and the scope. Again, this is a 10-property portfolio that we purchased about a year ago, and you can see, again, because of the rental activity going from 38% to about 53%, and in the change from when it was owned by someone else to when we owned it, the scope and the scale and the opportunities that Extra Space brings in that. I want to talk a little bit about acquisitions that Extra Space does on our 07 pipeline. This is important because, as you can see here, we looked at, or we had about $4.7 billion worth of deals come to Extra Space that we looked at. As far as underwriting and letters of intents issued and then closed on properties, you can see that the amount is much lower, obviously. Of the $361 million that we closed on in 2007, about $160 million of that was from third-party sites and partner sites that we went out and we work very closely with our partners. We know their needs. We know when they'd like to exit, or if something has changed, or if they'd like to spin something off or do a new development. And as we stay close to our partners, it gives us the great opportunity to purchase their sites and be an exit strategy for their equity investors as well as their bank. Just in the last few months, as we've been really pushing third-party management, we've had quite a few people come to us and tell us that either their equity investors or their banks, in the difficult time of financing that it is, are having a tough time financing or putting an investment into their properties without having a professional manager. And a lot of developers that are developing a site or two decide that they would develop it and then actually run it themselves. Might not be the best idea. And the equity investors and the debt investors understand that and have come to us and said, unless Extra Space manages it, we feel uncomfortable actually putting an investment into this property. One of the things that Extra Space can do that's different than most companies is essentially a stock transaction. And when we purchase facilities, last year we did it a number of times, we can purchase facilities with stock. Although it is a difficult and costly transaction because of the time that it takes and because we are a public company, we have to follow different SEC regulations. It does cost a little bit more in attorney's fees and deal transaction costs, but it is a possibility out there, especially for someone with a cost basis such that it'd be prohibitive for them to sell. Extra Space can give you essentially stock, or what we call OP units, operating partnership units, for your property, which then acts like stock in paying you a dividend. And in most cases, you can even borrow against that stock as a collateralization to build more properties or do other things with it. The deal points about 3+ are because we've decided to just get into this on a larger scale. Extra Space has actually managed properties for some time, but actually hasn't rolled it out to everyone up until a few months ago. And what we did in order to have the program ready to roll out was we reduced our management agreement and took out a lot of the legalese in the management agreement and made it a little bit more friendly for both sides, actually. We've also reduced our startup costs substantially from what they were in the days of Storage USA. Was very substantial, and now we've dropped that down to almost next to nothing to bring an owner on. We want to make it as easy as possible and let them understand that we want their business. The other thing that we've done, and depending on how long we continue to go forward with the rollout of the program, we'll continue to offer up to $25,000 of signage cost that we're willing to pay for people to switch from their third-party management opportunity to Extra Space managing their facility, or from owning and operating the facility themselves to having Extra Space do that for them. We understand that there's a lot of costs in switching over from owning your facility or managing the property yourself to having Extra Space manage the facility for you, and we're trying to eliminate those as much as possible, and giving signage up to $25,000 on the signage. We think that really helps out a lot of owners. Again, we have here our contact information for Jim or myself. We're here and available, whether by email or phone, to take any more questions or to answer anything else you'd like to know about 3+ or Extra Space. I think Poppy, or I'm sorry, Rebecca, I'll give it to you at this time.
We will now be answering any questions that you might have. I will read a couple that that came through during the conversations. One of them is, does 3+ program have a website? Jim or Noah?
Yeah, we do. It's www.3+, the number 3+, Plus, .extraspace, extraspace.com. So www.3plus.extraspace.com.
Great, thank you. Another question was, will all properties be managed the same regardless of ownership, i.e. third party or Extra Space?
I'll answer that question, and the answer is yes and no. And what I mean by that is, prior to getting into this role, I was a divisional vice president for 6 years at Extra Space, and from an actual operation standpoint, the answer is they're absolutely managed exactly the same. Frankly, a lot of times as I visited properties, or my district managers visited properties, or even the property managers themselves often don't really even know whether it's a wholly owned property or a third party. Actually, they would probably know it's a third party because they, at least on the district manager level, they once a month are required to have interaction with the owners. So the district manager would know. But the answer is they don't treat them any differently, whether it's a company-owned store or a third party. On the other hand, what we recognize is that some property owners have differences, and although we try to keep things fairly standardized, to give you an example, we have a third-party owner who has a property that is in just a tremendous market, and it has been, in the 8 years that I've been here, has probably averaged about 95% occupancy. So his belief is that he doesn't need the call center. And so rather than say, oh, well, no, if we're going to manage your property, you absolutely have to have the call center. In that example, we've had him opt out of the call center because of his very strong occupancy. So in that sense, there is some flexibility in having properties managed a little bit differently.
Great. Thank you very much. Another question is, for 1 month free, does the renter have to stay longer than 1 month?
The answer is no, they don't have to. But again, our research has certainly indicated that although there may be some people that do come in and get out within a month, most customers actually end up staying much longer than that. Our research indicates that if you measure all of the customers moving in and out, the average length of stay is around 9 months. But if you then actually also include the customers that are still in the facility, in other words, they haven't yet moved out, the average length of stay is closer to 20 or 21 months. So there again, we really feel very comfortable giving away that first month free.
The number of people that actually come in and rent and leave in 1 month just to take advantage of the free month is, as Jim said, extremely low, and hasn't been a large enough issue for us or other large competitors to address that. And it's been a good opportunity for us renting units and a good marketing cost, I guess you would call it, to bring customers in and have them stay much longer typically.
Great. Another question was, do I have to change my signs and facility name if Extra Space manages my property?
The answer is yes. In the past, before we started the 3+ program, we do have a handful of properties that we do manage. There are not very many, but there's a small handful out there that are not flagged Extra Space. But when we rolled out this new program called 3+, we made the strategic decision that's one of the requirements. However, what I would add to that is that's exactly why we came up with the part Noah was talking about, where we kick in the first $25,000 on the cost of changing that sign. And then second, it's really to everybody's benefit if you go back to the marketing piece, and again, the national branding and the importance of the internet and television advertising and other marketing programs. It truly is to somebody's advantage, not disadvantage, to have that sign change.
Thank you. Another question, while we still have some time for a couple more. Does a third-party owner have to raise the rates the same as Extra Space if they feel that it would not be prudent?
No, that's a great question. Just as I was indicating that property managers and district managers have the ability to make suggested changes on rates, we do the same thing with our third-party owners. I'm traveling today with a gentleman who has a certain philosophy, has a very nice product out there, and he would like for his rental rates on average to be a certain percent higher than his competitors, and so we work towards that end. So again, we have the automated tools necessary to just set rates according to occupancies and vacancies, but we also have the ability, and so does the owner, to help influence those triggers and whether or not they want to use the triggers at all.
Thank you. One of our listeners wrote in and said, what do you mean by type of customer that is renting for different amounts of increases?
What I was referring to is residential customers act differently than residential customers act differently than commercial customers. People that come to us through the web versus walking through the door. People that call the call center versus using the web. There are different types of customers, and different types of customers sometimes act differently, and you're able to change your rates and your discounts based on that. Again, very similar to an airline. If somebody calls up last minute, that's one type of customer. If somebody books 3 weeks in advance, that's a different type of customer.
Great.
For example, as Jim was saying, on a commercial customer, for example, a pharmaceutical rep, which we have quite a few of through the National Accounts Program, if they were to rent units, we would identify them as a commercial customer and be able to push their rates a little bit more typically than a residential customer through our different data points that we found in testing customers, we found that we can increase their rates substantially more, and we identify them that way and do that.
Thank you. And a listener just wrote in a question. How much does it cost yearly percentage of revenue?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
How much does it cost yearly as far as percentage of revenue?
As far as the management fee, we charge just a
Yeah.
standard 6% management fee.
Also, I would like to remind everybody that this information will be available on our website. We will be closing the question and answer period at this time. So thank you for everyone attending. We hope that we have provided useful information to assist you in your investment or development endeavors. For more information on Extra Space Storage, please call 888-586-9658. You will also receive an email shortly with the link to the archived presentation. So please watch your inbox for this email. Thank you again for attending, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.